You know, one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life, if you're courageous enough to do it, is to face the lies you've been telling yourself, not the lies you tell other people. That's easy. That's manageable. You can spin a story and convince someone else that everything's fine, but when you're alone, in the silence of your own mind, there's no one left to fool. And that's where the truth starts knocking. Most people don't want to admit it, but they've built their life around a scaffold of justifications and false beliefs. Little lies they whispered to themselves for years until those lies hardened into identity. I'm not good enough. It's just the way I am. I could have done more, but life was unfair. Or the worst one of all, it's too late. These aren't truths. These are walls, psychological barriers we erect to protect our ego from discomfort. But here's the harsh reality: the longer you hide behind them, the more power they gain over your future. You cannot reset your mindset until you tear those walls down brick by brick. That means you have to confront the story you've been living in. That might require asking questions you've avoided for years. Why didn't I try harder? Why did I settle? Why do I keep running from the pain instead of facing it head on? And when those answers come, they won't be pretty. They'll sting, because the truth usually does. But that sting is cleansing. That pain is necessary. It's the beginning of rebirth. You see, the mind is like a mirror. But if that mirror is fogged up with denial, insecurity, guilt, and shame, you'll never get a clear picture of who you really are. You'll see only a distorted version, a broken reflection of your potential. And so you walk through life lost, disconnected from your purpose, your strength, your fire. But the moment you wipe that mirror clean, by telling the truth, the whole truth, even when it burns, you start to see something real looking back at you. Someone capable, someone worthy, someone who isn't defined by their past, but by their courage to confront it. This isn't about guilt. It's not about blaming yourself endlessly. That's another trap, self-pity masquerading as responsibility. No, this is about accountability. It's about standing tall and saying, I've let myself down in some ways, yes, but I will no longer be a prisoner to my own denial. That kind of honesty is rare. It's brutal, but it is the seed of transformation. And without it, every attempt to grow will be sabotaged by the very mindset you refuse to challenge. So maybe you've been procrastinating on your goals and calling it perfectionism. Maybe you've been avoiding difficult conversations and labeling it as keeping the peace. Maybe you've been playing small and calling it humility. That's the game the mind plays when it's afraid, and fear has its place. But if it's driving the car, you're going to crash into a life you never wanted. There's something liberating about admitting you've lied to yourself. It's strange, really. Because the moment you do, you stop being at war with your own mind. And once that war ends, clarity floods in, power returns. Now you can build a new mindset on a solid foundation, not a fantasy, but of raw truth. And truth is the only ground stable enough to support lasting growth. So if you want to reset your mindset, really reset it, you have to start by getting honest. Brutally, relentlessly honest. Rip out the rot. Challenge the narrative. And stop excusing the version of yourself that's no longer aligned with who you're becoming. Because you cannot transform a mind you're still lying to. But once you face those lies with truth and courage, you reclaim something priceless, the authority to change your life. Life has a way of breaking you down in ways you never expected. Just when you think you've got it figured out, something hits you. A failure, a rejection, a betrayal, a storm you didn't see coming. And it knocks the wind out of you. You feel small, helpless, maybe even ashamed. And your mind starts running that familiar track. Why me? Why now? What did I do to deserve this? But here's the truth, and it's not easy to swallow. Those moments, the ones that feel like everything's falling apart, they're not designed to destroy you. They're designed to expose you. They strip away the illusion of control, of perfection, and they show you what you're really made of. Every setback is an invitation, a challenge, a chance to stop coasting and start climbing. But most people don't see it that way. They get hit and they fold. They internalize the failure and let it define them. And that's a tragedy because they miss the opportunity buried in the pain. See, growth doesn't happen when things are easy. You don't become stronger by coasting through life. You grow through resistance. Just like a muscle, the mind and the soul get stronger when they're tested, when you're forced to adapt, when you have to figure it out or fall behind. That's where transformation lies. Not in comfort, but in the struggle. And when you start to understand that, really understand it, everything changes. The same event that once made you feel cursed now becomes the catalyst for a new version of yourself. The problem is we've been conditioned to avoid pain, to run from difficulty. We've been told that success means never failing, when in fact success requires failure, not once, not occasionally, repeatedly, because failure is the raw material of wisdom. You don't learn anything when everything goes right. But when it all goes wrong, that's when you learn who your friends are. That's when you learn where your limits are and how far you can push past them. That's when you start to sharpen your focus because survival demands it. And that kind of learning doesn't fade. It becomes part of you. Reframing a setback means refusing to let it be the final word. It means looking it dead in the eye and asking, what is this trying to teach me? Maybe it's showing you where you've been lazy with your discipline. Maybe it's revealing a toxic relationship you've ignored for too long. Maybe it's just waking you up to the fact that you've been playing small and waiting for permission to grow. That's not failure. That's insight. That's a lesson disguised as loss. Now, this doesn't mean pretending everything is okay when it's not. You're allowed to feel the pain. You're supposed to feel it. Denial is not strength. But what you do after the pain, that's what defines your mindset. Do you stay down? Do you use the setback as proof that you were never good enough? Or do you rise with a deeper understanding and a sharper edge? That choice is what separates the average from the exceptional. So here's the challenge. When the next setback comes, and it will come, don't waste it. Don't waste your suffering. Suffering without purpose becomes poison. But suffering that's transformed into growth, that becomes power. The kind of power that can't be faked or borrowed. The kind that's earned step by painful step through the fire of adversity. And maybe, just maybe, the setback isn't there to ruin you at all. Maybe it's the very thing that had to happen to shake you awake, to pull something deeper out of you, to get your attention. Because if life didn't knock you down now and then, you might never stop long enough to realize you're capable of so much more than what you've settled for. That's the shift. That's the reset. When you stop asking why it happened to you and start asking why it happened for you, that single change in perspective can turn a breakdown into a breakthrough. It can turn wounds into wisdom and losses into leadership. And when that happens, you're no longer a victim of your setbacks. You become the architect of your growth. And that's when you stop surviving your life and start mastering it. Most people don't realize just how much noise they're living with every single day. The not external noise, the kind you can escape by turning off the television or stepping outside, but internal noise, mental clutter. A constant stream of unfinished thoughts, worries about the future, regrets from the past, distractions that loop endlessly, eating away at clarity, confidence, and peace. And the tragedy is, we've come to accept it as normal. We assume that racing thoughts, overthinking, and emotional exhaustion are just part of being human. But they're not. They're symptoms of a deeper disorder in the way we manage our inner world. The mind is powerful, but it's also sensitive. And when it's overrun, when there's no order, no structure, it doesn't work for you anymore. It works against you. You start confusing business with productivity. You mistake anxiety for preparation. You think if you just keep thinking long enough, eventually you'll stumble into the right answer. But that's not how clarity works. That's how you get stuck in a loop, trapped in your own head, paralyzed by options, burdened by information, and constantly second-guessing your every move. The mental clutter is the silent killer of purpose. It robs you of focus, energy, and the ability to take decisive action. Because when your mind is cluttered, even the smallest task feels overwhelming. You start your day with 10 different tabs open in your brain and wonder why you never feel present. You're everywhere and nowhere at once. It's like trying to run a marathon with your shoelaces tied together. Of course you keep tripping. Of course you feel like you're falling behind. How could you not? But here's the good news, this isn't permanent. Mental clarity isn't some elusive gift reserved for the enlightened. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be trained. It starts by doing something simple but profound. Slow down. Sit with your thoughts, not to solve them all at once, but to sort them, to see them clearly for what they are, some useful, some meaningless, some toxic. If your mind is a room, you've got to start cleaning it. Throw out what doesn't serve you. Let go of the imaginary conversations, the overanalyzed scenarios, the comparisons, the fears that aren't based in reality. All of it gone. You also have to stop feeding the noise. We've become addicted to stimulation. Scrolling, swiping, binge, watching, multitasking. We drown in content and starve for stillness. We're afraid of silence because silence forces us to face ourselves. But in that silence, that's where clarity lies. That's where the voice of reason, the voice of truth, can finally be heard again. If you never unplug from the chaos, how can you expect your mind to function like a tool instead of a torment? And let's not forget the emotional clutter, the grudges you haven't let go of, the guilt you still carry, the identity you've outgrown but keep dragging behind you like a weight. It all takes up space, space that could be used for vision, for strategy, for inner peace. But until you release what's outdated and untrue, there will be no room for the new, no room for growth. You cannot fill a cup that's already full of sludge. Sometimes eliminating mental clutter means making tough choices. Who you spend time with, what content you consume, what thoughts you allow to live rent-free in your head. And that's uncomfortable, yes, but it's necessary. You are responsible for your inner environment. Just like you clean your house or tend to your body, your mind needs maintenance. It needs boundaries. It needs discipline. And the more you respect that, the more control you gain, not over the world, but over your response to it. You want to reset your mindset, then you have to reclaim your attention, because where your attention goes, your life follows. If your focus is scattered, your power is scattered. But if you can bring it back, center it, sharpen it, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the chaos. You become a force of order in your own life. And once that happens, the world doesn't feel so overwhelming anymore. Your thoughts quiet down. Your vision gets clearer. Your decisions get stronger. Because when the mind is free of clutter, the path forward becomes obvious. And a clear mind is a powerful mind, one that can finally rise, think, act, and lead without hesitation. There comes a point where you have to ask yourself a fundamental question. Am I going to keep living as a victim of my circumstances, or am I going to take ownership and become the creator of my life? Because you can't be both. And for many people, that shift never happens, not because they're incapable, but because they've become attached to their pain. It becomes familiar, predictable. And in some twisted way, it gives them an identity. This happened to me, they say. That's why I am the way I am. But that mindset is a prison. It keeps you small. It keeps you stuck. Victimhood says life is something that happens to you. Creation says life is something you build. The victim waits for someone to change their life. The creator takes what they've got and changes it themselves. And here's the truth. You might not be responsible for what hurt you. You might not have chosen the betrayal, the trauma, the loss, but you are responsible for what you do with it now. No one else can carry that weight for you. And there is power in that truth, even if it's heavy. When you shift from victim to creator, something inside you wakes up. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I do with this? That single change in thinking rewires the brain. It puts the steering wheel back in your hands. You realize you're not helpless. You're not broken beyond repair. You're capable of choosing your next move, no matter what's been taken from you. And let me be clear, this isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's not about denying the pain. It's about refusing to let the pain define you. It's about standing in the ruins of what you've been through and saying, this will not be the end of my story. Because when you embrace that responsibility, even in the face of injustice or tragedy, you step into a different kind of power. Not the loud, performative kind, but a quiet, resolute strength, the kind that builds things, the kind that creates meaning where others only see chaos. The moment you decide to be the creator of your own life is the moment you begin to rewrite your future. And no, it won't be easy, but it will be worth it, because you'll stop drifting, you'll stop waiting, you'll stop blaming, and you'll start building something that reflects your highest potential, not your deepest wounds. And that's when your life stops happening by default and starts unfolding by design. We've built this strange idea into our culture that if you're not constantly feeling inspired, if you're not endlessly motivated, then something's wrong. That maybe you're not cut out for success, that maybe the dream isn't meant for you. But that's a lie. One of the most dangerous lies of all. Because motivation is fleeting. It's emotional. It comes and goes like the wind. And if you build your life on it, you're building on sand. The people who rise, the ones who accomplish something meaningful, they're not riding a wave of constant inspiration. They're anchored by something far deeper. Discipline. The decision to do what needs to be done, whether they feel like it or not. Discipline is what carries you through the days when you're tired, uncertain, unmotivated. It's what shows up when every excuse sounds reasonable. And make no mistake, there will be days like that. Maybe more often than not. The difference is whether you act according to your feelings or according to your vision. Think about that for a moment. If you only act when it feels good, you've handed over control of your future to your mood, to your fatigue, to your doubts. And those things are not good leaders. They don't care about your goals. They don't care about the life you're trying to build. But discipline. Discipline will show up at 5 a.m. when you'd rather sleep. It'll sit down and do the work when no one's watching. It'll stay consistent when the world offers every reason to quit. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. But it is essential. See, motivation asks, do I feel like it today? Discipline says, it doesn't matter, I've already decided. And that decision, made day after day, quietly, relentlessly, is what shapes the trajectory of your life. Because success isn't the result of a single massive effort. It's the cumulative effect of small, consistent actions over time. You don't become great by having bursts of effort once in a while. You become great by committing, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one claps. Now, some people hear the word discipline and they think of rigidity, of punishment, of cold, joyless routine. But that's not what this is about. Discipline isn't there to take away your freedom, it's there to create it. Because when you're disciplined, you're no longer a slave to your impulses. You're no longer controlled by the ups and downs of your emotions. You take charge of your direction. You become someone you can rely on. And that's powerful. That's rare. If you want to reset your mindset, you have to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start moving in the direction you've committed to moment by moment. That's how you build momentum. That's how you rewire your habits, your thoughts, your identity. And over time, you become someone who doesn't just hope for a better life, but creates one. Because when discipline becomes your default, success becomes inevitable. Mastery of the mind doesn't happen by accident. It isn't gifted to a select few. It's earned daily, intentionally, and with effort. Just like training your body, training your mind demands consistency, challenge, and commitment. But we often neglect it. We chase external achievements while our inner world falls into disorder. We obsess over performance, productivity, and image, but ignore the very instrument that shapes it all, our mind. And it's no wonder we feel anxious, scattered, reactive. The mind, left untrained, becomes chaotic. It latches onto fear. It builds stories from insecurity. It distorts reality through a lens of unhealed pain and untamed emotion. And if you're not actively mastering it, it will master you, slowly, quietly, and entirely. That's why training your mind daily isn't optional, it's foundational. It's the anchor that keeps you steady when life pulls at you from every direction. But most people are so distracted that they never stop long enough to notice the patterns in their thinking. They don't realize their thoughts are shaping their beliefs, and their beliefs are shaping their reality. And so they drift from one emotion to the next, from one conflict to the next, from one regret to the next, never asking, what am I feeding my mind? What am I rehearsing every day in my head? Mental mastery begins with awareness. You have to start noticing what you're thinking and how it makes you feel. Is that thought helpful or destructive? Is it rooted in truth or fear? You wouldn't drink dirty water and expect to be healthy. So why do you consume toxic thoughts all day and expect to be at peace? This is where daily training comes in. Meditation, reflection journaling, deep reading, physical discipline. Strategic solitude, these aren't soft, optional habits. They are weapons of mental resilience. They sharpen your focus, calm your nervous system, and build a kind of psychological armor that allows you to face life with clarity instead of confusion. And here's the reality. Some days it will feel pointless. You'll sit down and your thoughts will be loud, scattered, intrusive. You'll feel restless, impatient, unproductive. But that's exactly why you must keep showing up. You're not training for perfection. You're training for strength, for stability, for presence. The days you feel the most chaotic inside are the days you need your mental training the most. That's not failure. That's the work. And just like lifting weights, progress happens incrementally. You won't notice the change all at once. But then suddenly, one day you respond differently. You pause instead of reacting. You speak truth instead of fear. You lead instead of follow. And you realize you're not who you used to be. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Training your mind daily is how you become the kind of person who can lead themselves before trying to lead anyone else. It's how you stay grounded in truth when the noise of the world tries to drown it out. And it's how you stay aligned with your values when the temptations of comfort, distraction, and fear try to pull you off course. This isn't about control, it's about responsibility. Owning the space between stimulus and response, choosing strength over reactivity, depth over distraction, and doing it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. Because mastery isn't an event, it's a lifestyle. And when that becomes your standard, when training your mind becomes as non-negotiable as breathing, you stop being someone the world pushes around, and you start becoming someone who shapes it. So here we are at the edge of something greater than just a motivational message. This isn't about hype, this is about transformation. Real, lasting, hard-earned transformation. You've been handed the tools, but now you have to choose to use them. Face the lies you've been telling yourself. Stop letting fear masquerade as truth. Reframe every setback, because life isn't punishing you, it's preparing you. Eliminate the mental clutter that's suffocating your potential. Reclaim your clarity. Shift from victim to creator, because no one is coming to rescue you. And that's not a curse, that's your greatest opportunity. Embrace discipline over motivation, because feelings are fickle, but decisions create destiny. And train daily for mental mastery, because the strength of your mind is the foundation of every meaningful thing you will ever build. This is your reset. Not a moment of inspiration that fades in a few hours, but a conscious return to who you were meant to become. A reordering of your internal world so that you can finally step into the external one with clarity, strength, and purpose. The reset doesn't happen when life gets easier. It happens when you get stronger. So don't wait for the perfect time. Don't wait for the fear to leave. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission. Choose now. Start now. Reset your mindset, because your future depends on it.